Hello, Bigfoot enthusiast. Scott here from Squatch America.
And Hannah, having a heat wave
Having
in the paddy wagon.
In the paddy wagon. Yeah, it's 93 outside and 91 in here. And so, yeah, our air conditioner's working overtime.
We have our not quite adult beverages, but they'll do.
Yeah, a little iced tea today instead of coffee, which is kind of unusual for us. So, we actually have a really great guest tonight, and we want to get right into the discussion. So, without further ado, all right. So tonight, let me get over to the chats.
Drop in the chat if you're here.
Yeah, if you're here.
It's kind of an empty room tonight. I don't like that. Well,
yeah.
so if you're skulking around in there, just say hi, howdy, how are you?
Yeah. So I know Renee is not going to be with us tonight.
Basketball?
No, she's out squatching actually. So
blast her eyes.
So there. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Donna.
Hi, Donna. Without further ado, tonight we have William Nighthawk. Hi, William. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you both doing tonight?
We're doing great. A little warm, but we're doing okay. So it's kind of tough when you're in hot weather when you're living in a tin can. So
our poor AC unit. I mean, someone asked us, well, do you not have AC in that? Most of them come with AC. And I said, well, yeah, we've got AC, but it is doing its level best to keep up with what's going on outside. Yeah. So
lots of ice water.
Yep.
I've had a gallon already today. I don't get this until I've had my gallon of H2O.
All right. So William's a podcaster, and he is
he's a holy man and a researcher of all things cryptid and paranormal, and there's some other stuff in there. But I was really interested in the holy man piece. Yeah. I want to know about that at some point in this evening.
We will get to that. But the first question we always ask everybody who comes on the show is, what got you into the Bigfoot stuff, the area known as Bigfoot?
Being Native American.
Yeah, that's pretty much a give me.
Yeah, it is pretty much a give me. My whole life I was told to my father always told me stories about the big brother, watching out for us and watching out for the environment. And my whole life I grew up that way. I had heard him, never had a sighting until I was like 12 years old. But I always knew he was around because he always whistled or he whooped or did something, along that lines. Never violent interacting whatsoever. There was one time only that I would probably say he was mischievous. But that was because I was being a teenager at the time and a little reckless and wild. So, but yeah, I had my first sighting at the age of 12. We were motocross riding in a field, and we came through the forest into the field opening, and the field was surrounded by forest. Anyways, we were riding our dirt bikes and stuff, our motorcycles, and you know how they pop and they crack and they make the loud noises and stuff, and especially in those days in the 70s. Basically, I had this weird feeling come over me, like something told me just to take a break, So I go to where my two friends are, because there was three of us, and I parked the motorcycle, reached down, turned the fuel line off to the gas tank, and as I'm stepping off the dirt bike, I'm looking down towards the trailhead that we came in at, through the path. All of us rode our motorcycles through, and there stood I would say every bit of at least 8.5 to almost 9 feet tall. Tall, hairy man. I actually had a good friend that made 3D images of the descriptions that I gave, and this is what I saw.
Wow.
What I saw was with the arms up in the air into a tree. Okay, but this is what I saw. All right, but it was standing this way. It was standing sideways. Okay,
Mhm.
with its arms up in a tree. Now there was so much greenery, pine trees and and maple and all the other trees around the area that I couldn't tell if what he was reaching for, or it could have even been a female for all I know. At that distance, it was about 100 yards. And anyways, reaching up in the tree, and then I remembered what my father told me about never look them in the eye. So I looked down, and by the time I looked down and looked at my friends off to the side of me, and we're going, what the heck is going on? And by the time all three of us looked back up, it was gone. So we took our motorcycles over to where the tree was, and we stood on the motorcycle seats of the dirt bikes while the other two guys held the bike steady, and we tried to reach the branch that it was reaching at, and it was actually pulling on because I could see the leaves moving, and we couldn't even reach it. That's how high up it was. And motorcycle seats are probably what, almost 4 feet off the ground. So you put that on top of a 5 foot tall, young teenager. You got 9 feet right there. I should have been able to touch something. So, but I didn't.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. I mean, I had my first sighting and I was like the early 50s, so it took me a long time to get there, but once you see it changed my whole perspective on life and stuff. So I want to say hi to Papa Craig, who just popped in the chat. I I see you over on Mogollon Monsters all the time there, Papa. I do a little what's it called?
Stalking,
lurking. Lurking.
So, William, I have a question for you. Where was your sighting? What part of the country?
It was actually around the Seneca Reservation.
Which is in what state, for those of us who have zero geography understanding?
It's basically in New York. It's between by the Allegheny Mountains.
Okay, so the reason I asked is because when you held up the little the carving,
mm-hmm.
that looks almost identical. Think back when we were in Bluff Creek, outside that park area. There's that great big huge wood carving of it.
Mm-hmm.
That looks almost identical to that.
Yeah,
and that's in California.
So, yeah, these were actually made. I've got another one I'm going to show you too in a second.
Okay.
The second sighting I had was about a week later, and of course I was out riding motorcycles again, about 1.5 miles from where we were previously, because I didn't want to go back there right away. Being 12 years old and you're going on 13, you kind of, worry about things you don't have your mind can't grasp what it was. You know what I mean? The closest thing I could think of it, other than what my dad was telling me growing up, being Native American, was like a silverback gorilla. That's about the only thing I could correlate it with, but much, much, much bigger. Anyways, the second time, about a week and a half later, we were riding dirt bikes again, and it was in a gravel pit area that it was half gravel pit, and then it was half forested area. And on the other side of the forested area, it dropped down about 20 feet into a stream that was probably 30 feet wide. Okay. And this stream was very, very active with wildlife and everything. Because that, growing up around there, it's, the wildlife. Anyways, I'm going through the woods and it was like a horseshoe. You go down through the gravel pit, you did the horseshoe loop through the woods, through the forest, and you come back out in the gravel pits. And I did that like 3 times. And on the 4th time coming through, I see this branch that was thrown, literally. I mean, it was thrown because it came sideways at me, and it hit the
Wow.
front tire of the motorcycle, and the motorcycle flipped. And thank goodness I wasn't doing any more than about 20 miles an hour. But, I fell off. The bike landed on my leg and burned my leg pretty bad on my calf. And I looked up as I was pushing the motorcycle up off of me, and there stood almost the exact same thing I saw, but bigger. And I didn't think I could see anything bigger than that. But as it stood there and looked at me, it smirked at me. Okay. And it turned and walked away. But as it turned and walked away, it didn't really even take its eyes off of me. And its eyes were jet black. I mean, black like coal. Okay. This is what I saw walking away.
Wow.
And again, this is a 3D cast of my description that I gave the guy, a good friend of mine, that he made on his 3D printer for me. Even the stride and everything is exact. So,
Wow.
I mean, just the thickness and the massiveness of the thing was incredible. But that was the second time I had the sighting. And as I got the motorcycle off of me and it disappeared, I had a feeling that it wasn't there alone. I had a feeling there was maybe one or two more that was there. And the only reason being I say that is because I think I disturbed its hunting. Because as I pushed the motorcycle off of me, I heard something off to my left running through brush and stuff and like snapping branches. And I'm thinking, okay, well, hopefully it's not another one of them. Well, I looked, and here it was a buck, a 6-point buck. It was a 6-point buck. And, I was thinking to myself, maybe he just threw that because I was interrupting their hunt. So, but that was the second sighting I had with him. So.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty interesting because we've actually got some quite a few hunting reports from people too with deer and things, of course, that we get. But one of the weirdest actually Bigfoot hunting stories we got was we found 3 deer stacked in a tree, limbs like this, 8 foot up, stacked on top of each other like that, sideways. And I know that wasn't a cat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. And most cats won't drag their prey to the same spot every time because they worry about other scavenger hunters around, like coyotes and wild dogs. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, did you have a question?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I just took a note for myself.
Okay. So we're about 15 minutes in.
We are.
Already, believe it or not. Hannah's got something she wants to share.
Yes, I have something I want to share. See this beautiful, beautiful, is it vintage?
I don't know.
Vintage Blue Mountain Bigfoot Research Squatching with Hannah coffee mug. Now, this is the significance of this is where it all started. It all started with these, and as soon as it all started, the 2020 shut us down, and then we rebranded. So I have got an inordinate amount of these mugs that we need to unload. So they are on sale for $15. That includes shipping. And I just had to ship something today. And you know what? USPS has gone off the crazy deep end. But it is what it is. So $15 per mug includes shipping to wherever you are. All you have to do is send us an email or send me a private message. If you're my friend on Facebook, we will send you an invoice. You can pay it online, and then we will pop this thing. I saw that. We'll pop this thing in the mail. Papa, this is just your standard Denny's size mug. So I think 12 ounces. It holds a ridiculous amount of coffee. You need at least 3 of these every morning.
Yeah.
So anyway, but normally we would charge $12 plus shipping for them, but they are on sale. Basically, it's like $5 plus $10 for shipping because that's what they're going to charge us. So shoot us a message, send us an email, whatever. We will take care of you. Great stocking stuffers. I don't know. You could grow your green bean start in them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There you go.
And it does have Sassy Squatch, which is my
It's got
logo.
our Paddy Wagon logo.
Have our Paddy Wagon logo. So yes, I want to unload these. We've got about 100 of them. So let's move these off the shelf.
Okay. That's it.
That's our commercial.
That's our commercial.
Buy our merch, support the search. Yeah.
So William, are you familiar with pictographs and petroglyphs, of course?
Oh yeah. Yep,
Okay.
I'm aware of the one you're probably going to discuss too.
What one?
The one with the father and the son Sasquatch on the one with the eyes coming down.
I know what you're talking about, because pictographs are my thing. That's what I went to school for, actually. But I want to show you this one.
Oh yeah, I see it right away.
Do you?
Yeah.
We found this one right here in Eastern Oregon just last week.
Wow. And there's no way that can. Yeah, I guess there's no way that can be misconstrued, because even the arm structure is the same as the one that I was describing to you about how they hang out like off to the sides.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's to show the massiveness of it, because what triggered that in my mind when you held up that second statue, how muscular, these things are, and how.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's what made me think that maybe the first one I saw was either a juvenile one, like a young adult, or maybe a female. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I could think of. But even the first one I saw was massive too. For the distance that I saw it at, 100 yards I saw it at. The other one was so close to me, I probably could have used a pea shooter and hit it in the head. That's how close it was. So wow. If it didn't throw the branch at me, it probably could have reached out and grabbed me off the motorcycle. So, wow. But yeah, that's how close I was to that one. So I got a lot more detail. Like I said, I saw the eyes, the nose was a little flattened. It didn't have like, how like some people say they have the chimpanzee almost looking facial features, down by the mouth and all that, how it kind of sticks out. It didn't have that. It had more of the complexion was like a grayish complexion. And I'm thinking maybe it's because of all the dust and the dirt and stuff in the area. And especially at that time of the year. But the facial features were almost like Neanderthal type of looking, if you know what I'm saying. Yep. And the one thing that I always had a problem with was, growing up, my dad, how every kid basically looks up to their father. My father was a World War II veteran, and he was a real tough cookie. He came out of World War III with several Purple Hearts, or World War II. I mean, we're not in World War III yet. But anyways, he was with Patton's 4th Armored Division during World War II, and he was in France and Germany, and he said that these things are all over the place. They're not just like located in the United States. He said that there's stories of these beings all over the place, and I hate using the term creature, a lot of people, a lot of researchers use the term creature or beast or monster. I'm not one to do that because most of my encounters haven't been violent, because the way I approach it is I approach it being Native American. I go with a good intention, with a good honest heart. I do a prayer before I go in. I take tobacco with me. I thank the water. I thank the trees. All that. Call me a tree hugger if you want, but that's just the way Native Americans do it. It's a mutual respect for everything. It's called walking in beauty, and everything's connected. Everything has spirit, and I think that the reason that I haven't had too many bad run-ins with them is because they can sense that. They can almost feel like, a person's presence. I don't know how to describe it. Almost like some people say they can see auras. You know, well, almost along that lines is how I can describe it. But my dad used to tell me they know that I'm going to the forest before I know I'm going to the forest. And why would my father, who was, an incredible man, lie to me? You know what I mean? He wouldn't, because our tales, our oral tradition, from handed down from his father and his father's father and all that, about our family interacting with these things, picking wild grapes next to each other, um, you know, just huckleberries and all kinds of stuff. It doesn't make any sense that if we had this rapport with them over all these generations, that they would all of a sudden turn on us. Now a lot of people say they have bad run-ins with them. It's been my understanding that a lot of the mean ones, because my father always told me there was 4 distinct types. There was the huge ones that come down from Alaska into your neck of the woods, down around Bluff Creek and all that area of California and Oregon and Washington, on up to Vancouver Island and all in that area, all the way up into Alaska. They're supposedly the bigger ones that are anywhere from like 10 to 14 feet tall, is what he told me, that as big as they could get. Then there was another breed that came up from South America way back, and they inhabited like along Texas, Louisiana, and into Florida and Georgia, into the swamp areas. And he said that they were really mean too. They were smaller in stature, more like a chimpanzee looking type of a creature, and they would get like 7 to 8 feet tall, and they were really mean. And he always told me that the reason that they're mean is, who wouldn't be mean living in a swamp?
Yeah.
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They got to fight gators, they got to fight snapping turtles, cottonmouths, you name it. Coyotes, cougars, and God knows what else, wild hogs. I mean, they're literally fighting to survive in a swamp. So yeah, of course they're going to have an attitude, and of course they're going to be opportunists and steal chickens and try to steal easy food supplies. But then the next one my father used to tell me about was the old Ojibwe legend of the Gagwe. And they were supposedly inhabitants of the Ohio Valley on over into upper Minnesota and Michigan, up into that area. And they were supposed to have like a little bit longer of a snout, almost like a baboon. And they got up to almost like 9 feet tall. They were mean. They didn't get along with the other types of Bigfoot, especially the ones from Alaska. I don't know why they were, in the same almost geographical area, that part of the country. But
Mhm.
They seem to not get along with anything or anybody. So that was the third kind. And then my father told me about the fourth kind was more of a human looking type of a Bigfoot, which was, he described it more like a Neanderthal, like I saw the second time. And, he described them of getting up to like 9 to 10 feet tall, very, very muscular, very, very family oriented, very protective of their family, especially their young ones. Um, they like to gift, but he said, don't gift them food if you can. Gift them what they like to gift. They like to gift hands things, intricate woven like grapevine things, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Feathers, certain rocks. You know, we basically gifted them our stuff that we made by hand too. So, but the thing of it is, the reason he said don't gift them food was because first off, they're gonna start expecting it, and then you're gonna start feeding them all the time, and they're gonna be around all the time, and they're not gonna have their freedom and their spirit that they had before you gifted them food. So he didn't want that part of their lives destroyed. So he wanted them to live like we should be living, Mankind went with technology, while Bigfoot and all these other cryptids went with the Mother Earth spiritual strength and living off the land and building that rapport with the environment, you know. So
Well, yeah, that that makes perfect sense. Because even with you don't feed bears and stuff because they'll stick around, kind of deal. You know, and I totally understand that. Did you want to?
Remember what? So we met when we were over we were over towards the west coast earlier this year, and we met a lady from Western Oregon. She's an elderly lady, an artist. She lives on some rural property. She's rather reclusive, does a lot of painting. Where are those pictures?
I don't.
She has no idea. Anyway, she showed us pictures of the juveniles that would play on her land because she's had several sightings. And she started leaving like ribbons.
mm-hmm.
And she has a picture with a juvenile female with a ribbon on her locks.
Woven into her hair.
Woven into her hair.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking that's very, that they want handicrafts. They want things that they can manipulate. See,
Mm-hmm.
it was very, oh gosh. It was very consistent with what she was saying. And she never gave them food. She would leave out...
Where's that box? Okay.
She would gift them pebbles and ribbons and not pebbles, marbles. And ribbons. And she said the young ones would come and take them and play with them. What are you
that
doing?
box right there?
This box.
Yeah.
This box.
This lady was an artist, and the gray one.
The gray box. Okay.
On the floor.
I'm working. Oh, okay, got you.
This lady was an artist, and she actually drew what she saw for us, and she gave me her drawings. I think I got them.
They were beautiful, and you could tell the difference in features between the male and the female. And please tell me you have them readily available. But I loved it. She said the little girls would practice braiding on each other. Oh, here they are. You're gonna love these.
So.
That's the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can see the braid down the side of her head.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's not unusual. Yeah.
Nope.
And that's the male.
Yeah.
Now you were talking about what looked more Cro-Magnon.
Yeah, and that's exactly. Look at the face.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm just like getting chills.
Yeah. Yeah, but her being an artist, it was really nice, and that she gave me these photographs or these drawings of hers. But
Yep.
And I've had a lot of people tell me stories about their horses, getting their horses' hair braided. I don't know if you've heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Especially when you're having a time where you don't have time to tend to the horses as much as you used to. Like, say, if it's somebody elderly or somebody that has a lot of children, that takes up a lot of their time. Yeah, that's not unusual. I had a buddy of mine on the up in the Allegheny Mountains that said that he used to have a group of them living on his property, and he had a chicken coop, and the chicken coop was behind the barn, all fenced in and everything. And he would go out to feed the chickens and everything, and find the feed barrel open, and some of it on the ground. And he looked at the chickens and he said, somebody's been feeding them, and he goes in and he checks all the time, and he says, every time I go in, there's like 6 to 10 eggs missing out of a couple dozen.
Oh, wow.
And he says, but the chickens look perfectly healthy. He couldn't understand where these eggs were going every day, and it was every day for like 6 months. And here he put a camera up, and the camera completely went fuzzy one night, and he had it hooked up to his cell phone. So he goes out and he takes a flashlight out and his shotgun, and he goes around the side of the barn, and he sees this Bigfoot in the chicken coop petting the chickens and picking the eggs up and placing the chicken back down.
Oh, my heart just melted all over the place.
So
Hannah's got chickens and she loves her chickens. So
I have chicken fever really bad.
They are opportunists, okay? But they're you're gonna have your good ones and your bad ones, just like there are in humans.
Exactly.
Okay. And to stereotype all of them as evil, vicious, bloodthirsty creatures is wrong in my book. Okay. You're going to have them just like you have humans. They're going to be good and they're going to be bad. It just depends on which one you get involved with. So,
right. I sometimes equate it to, like, there's teenage boys, and teenage boys are going to be teenage boys sometimes, and I'm sure they got teenage boys who like to play pranks, who can be aggressive or whatever when they're trying to get their own territory or whatnot.
Smell really bad because teenage boys stink.
Exactly. So, I look at it that way. I mean, like you said, there's good ones and there's bad ones.
Yeah. So yeah, my one thing my father always taught me too was what his father told him: the palms of their hands and the bottoms of their feet excretes an oily substance, and that's where the smell comes from. And if you notice, a lot of the times the more aggressive interactions with them is when you smell that smell. That smell is kind of like the smell of a skunk, and it's saying, you know what, back off, I don't want you around me.
So I have something to add to that. This is just like weird, trivial stuff that he never knew about me. When I was in college, my roommate had a condition where she had extra sweat glands on the palms of her hands and on the soles of her feet. And when she got really anxious or nervous or upset, it would smell awful.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's not watching this, but if she was, she'd know exactly what I was talking about. So I can't remember what it's called, but that is a condition in humans where you have extra sweat glands in your palms and your soles, and it smells horrible.
Wow. I did not know that. Now I know something.
Yeah.
So that actually makes total sense to me.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not claiming to be an expert or anything, okay? Because I'm not. I'm just telling you from my interactions with what I've done over the years and what my family has taught me. So I don't want anybody thinking I'm claiming to be an expert, because I'm not. I just want people to know a different version of what is out there.
Right.
Okay.
No,
Totally agree.
I think that makes total sense.
Yep.
If they've got, well, they're bigger, they're going to have more sweat glands anyway. And if that makes sense. That makes biological sense.
Yeah.
And one thing also too, a friend of mine, we were talking the other day on the one of his podcasts, DA Ex Machina. He does a lot of he runs the Dogmen cryptid research groups and stuff. We were talking about the hands and all that, and how whenever they touch like a vehicle's glass, it's really hard to get the handprint off the glass because of that oil. Yep, because of the oil.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. That's exactly what I've heard too.
We got to go to a commercial.
We got a commercial break we got to do really quick, and we'll be right back. And I got a question for you that all this stuff has got in my head. So hold on here. We'll be right back. Oh, wrong one. I did it again. I pressed the wrong button.
Friends, American farmers recently warned us about food shortages. They're not going to be able to grow enough food this year because of an off-the-charts fertilizer shortage. This means you need to stockpile emergency food if you don't have some. Get prepared with My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest preparedness company, proudly offering Ready Hour brand products because they're the very best. Click on our affiliate link below and stock up now. These kits provide breakfast, lunch, dinners, drinks, and snacks, totaling over 2,000 calories a day. You won't go hungry when you have enough food. Click our affiliate link below. Don't let your family suffer. Act now while there's still time.
All right.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Now I got to push more buttons. Okay, there we go. All right. Thanks. We're back. So, William, you mentioned a couple things here that just kind of struck me, and you were just talking about the Dogman. Now, my personal thought, and of course, I'm not an expert either. I don't know if there's anybody who is, but my personal thought, when you talked about the ones that are in the Ohio area and stuff, the Bigfoot who has a longer snout, do you think that's what they equate the Dogman, or is the Dogman something different?
Well,
in your opinion,
here's the thing with the whole Dogman phenomena. It goes back to that pareidolia where you have that effect of the mind perceives things certain ways, and for the longest time, my people would call the Gagwe bear man because it looked like a bear to us that walked on two legs. And the bear was the first medicine man of my people because it knew what kind of herbs to eat and what bark to take to fix what was ever ailing it. So we learned a lot from the bear. It's hard to say. I mean, some people probably would get it confused. But the one thing that stands out with a lot of the Dogmen encounters and descriptions is the tall, pointed ears that they see. And the Gagwe is not described of having pointed ears. It has normal ears on the side of the head. So I don't know. I mean, but, again, it all is how the person views it. So, but the Dogmen, they have been around a while. I think, as with anything in our government and our military, and this is only coming from being a military vet myself, I think our government and our military is going to be opportunists. We all know that back in the 40s and the 50s that Russia was trying to make a super soldier with an ape hybrid. And I think that maybe our government and scientists took it a little bit farther than that on some instances. I think they might have taken several different genetic species of animals and tried to mutate it with the human DNA to make a super soldier. And I think that one of the reasons for doing that was so they could have more of an opportunity and a chance to capture one of the Bigfoot and Sasquatch specimens, because they wanted to develop it more than anything else into a super soldier, or use whatever knowledge it had in cloaking or whatnot for military purposes. Now, that's just a theory. Okay, I'm not saying that it's fact. That's just my theory. But if you take, for instance, in the LBL area of Kentucky, the land between the lakes, and you do your research on it, you'll find out that there was an observation military style underground bunker with safe houses to where they could monitor their genetic experiments in the forest. Okay. And this has been proven that the bunkers are there. And in fact, the one of the safe rooms that they would call it is basically like a 4-foot concrete thick wall, squared wall with a huge steel door on it. Well, they found the steel door ripped off its hinges. And there's not too many things out there that can rip a steel door off its hinges. So it's my guess that maybe they had something go way beyond their ability to control, and maybe that's what's being seen. You have people thinking that werewolves are around and all this, and then you have the whole skinwalker thing too with the native culture. You have to be able to pull back a little bit and differentiate certain details in each specific so-called cryptid creatures. Okay. And it's been, to my knowledge, that the Gagwe is not really a dog man, but it could probably be misconstrued as that by somebody that's a little bit more frantic than normal when they see it, which who wouldn't be? It could even be the reason that the Beast of Bray Road is seen so much, because people see it from a distance and think that it's the Beast of Bray Road. It could be several different things that could make people think that it's a dog man. But as far as oral tradition goes, the dog men's been around for a while. They supposedly came from deep cave systems within the earth. The same with the cave creatures that they're starting to realize that are here. The Dene people call them the ant people. Some people call them lizard people. They've always been here. They've chose not to interact with humans. Of course, with humans population increasing so much, you're gonna have those cases where you're gonna butt heads now with these cryptids more often, because we're getting further and further out in the wild, and the wild's getting further and further to us, closer to us. So that's basically where the problem lies. So, and again, it's just my theory. So.
I totally understand. I actually, me being an anthropologist and a Native American culture anthropologist, I've worked with tribes all over the nation, and I spent 2 summers down in Chaco Canyon, which is a phenomenally spiritual place. But they were, and I was studying the pictographs and stuff down there and talking mostly with the Navajo tribe down there, and they have a lot of the ant person coming out of out of the ground stories that I've heard lots and lots of those.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I've just had like about 16 different conspiracy theories go through my head right now.
yeah,
They'll probably get us shut down if I.
but we have, and I totally agree with you because, I'm prior military too. I was in the infantry in the Army. I did 2 tours in Iraq, and I was actually in Patton's old unit out of Germany when we went to Iraq. But you hear the stories of like when Mount St. Helens went off and they had the bodies being removed. Mono Lake, there was a whole special forces unit sent into, just down the road here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
and
I'm kind of with you.
and in the Pacific Northwest, how do you account for all the black helicopters you see flying around?
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot lately.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, and us being right here, we're actually in the Blue Mountains, where the Patterson or the not Patterson,
Freeman.
the Freeman film was
Freeman
filmed.
film, yeah.
So actually, where I had my sighting was only 15 miles south in the same mountain of where that film was taken. Just 20, 30 years apart.
And this is the sighting time in our local watershed. This is roughly when you had your sighting. And they've just announced that they're doing all sorts of controlled burns in the watershed now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had this happen to me three times. We've had a bunch of reports, and when we get to the area, they've done a controlled burn in that area.
Yeah. That's the best way to get rid of evidence.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Crazy talk.
Well, you got 13 minutes. Do we have any announcements?
Oh yeah, we do. Okay, we got a couple quick announcements we're going to do real quick. I have to get over here to my pictures, to my fancy pictures. Okay. So coming up.
After an entire summer of our travel plans being annihilated one after the other, knock on wood, here's one that is actually going to happen. Go for it.
Okay. So coming up, this would be in September 23rd and 24th at the fairgrounds in Pocatello, Idaho. They're going to have they're bringing it back, the Bigfoot Rendezvous 22.
Bigfoot Rendezvous 2022. It rhymes. He's a
It does
poet
rhyme.
and he didn't know it.
Yeah. So the guest speakers are Cliff Barrickman, Jeff Meldrum, and Hannah and I. So,
And there's one other guy.
Yep, there's one other guy. Oh gosh, I feel bad. I forgot his name. It is, I can't read it.
There's another guy.
But he is the expert of Ape Canyon. So if you're familiar with the Ape Canyon story, that's your guy.
We will have mugs for sale if
Marcel.
you don't buy them all.
His last name's Marcel. I can't remember.
Mercel.
Yeah.
Mark Mercel?
Mark Mercel. I
I
finally
think
got
he's
it.
my Facebook friend. Actually.
Yeah, there we go. So there's that. And then in the Blue Mountains come October. Let's see. Why isn't my stuff not going
It's
away?
right here.
There it goes. Here we go. October 1st.
October 1st, yes.
Yep, October 1st. And if you're anywhere near Elgin, Oregon, and the smack dab in the middle of the Blue Mountains and the whole Freeman Film area out of Elgin, Oregon, you can go to eaglecaptrainrides.com actually, and you can buy your tickets on October 1st. They're doing the Bigfoot Discovery Train, and you can ride the train into the Blue Mountains where the Wallowa and the Grand Ronde River meet. It's the two rivers.
You will hear his whole amazing spiel about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I will have mugs for sale if you don't buy them off of me. And you are guaranteed to see at least 4 Bigfoot on your excursion. It's a done deal.
All right. So there's that.
Special prize if you can identify which Amazon costume each one is wearing.
Yeah. So there's that. So you got anything coming up? William, that you're going to be on or doing or?
October, in October, second weekend of October, I'll be one of the guest speakers for the Bigfoot convention in Virginia. And then I'll be going down in September to the Southwest Virginia Bigfoot and Friends Festival. So those two currently are the only thing I'm doing other than the podcast and the YouTube channel. You know, the YouTube channel is Nighthawk's High Strangeness podcast. If you can, you know, subscribe to it. I'm trying to boost the viewership, to get the information out there. Currently, I've got probably 50 videos up already of it, of certain things, of certain podcasts. A lot of them my own. I do Nighthawk by the Fire Thursday nights, which I'm probably going to do right after this.
Okay.
And then Friday morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning, I do the Weekend Morning Brew program, which is a complete paranormal mysteries, you know, type of a podcast covering everything from aliens, UFOs, to ghosts, to demons, to Bigfoot, Dogman, werewolves, you name it, virtually everything. So, and each day, each morning cast is different too. So
Awesome. Well, great. I'm so glad you came on with us.
Okay, I'm going to ask my question.
Okay, there you go. She wrote it down.
No, not that.
Okay.
No. I don't have a drop of Native American blood in me. I am not tied to this continent in any way, shape, or form. It's true. I am a total import from the other side of the planet. But
she's Hungarian Jewish, if you want to know.
Yeah,
So.
my people come from Lithuania.
I was going to say Hungarian.
I look like it. I'm a big girl. Anyway, what does it mean? You're a holy man. What does that mean?
That means that I am basically, a holy man. A Wachashuakan is a medicine man.
Medicine man.
I am basically the one that does the herbal medicine ceremonies. I'm a pipe carrier for my family. I do literally everything. I do protective ceremonies. I've recently been protecting a lot of the people that have had the skinwalker phenomenon harassing them. So I do a lot of different things. So
does it count that my grandmother was the whipping woman at the powwows? You know, when they kept the young men in line during the dances.
So is a holy man or a medicine man in the Native American culture? Would that be similar to, you know, in Europe they had the healers,
mm-hmm.
The women who were healers who later called witches, basically. And
you can call me a witch all you want, but
yeah.
But understanding how energy works, what nature has given us,
right.
how to stay in tune with Mama Earth.
Right, exactly. Well, and it goes back to the old Native American thing too, where everything is connected.
Yes.
It's like Chief Seattle said. We're all connected in the web of life. What we do to the web, we do to ourselves.
Yes. It's so funny. Our almost 40-year-old son was just talking to us about that from a quantum physics standpoint.
Well, that's been proven.
Yeah, he says, it's just amazing me how we're all one consciousness, but we're all separate. I said, it's like looking at a bunch of baby plants above the ground. They all look separate. When you take up the sod, all the roots, they're just one plant. They just come up in different spots. And when you rip them apart, they all feel it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, okay.
We do have a question. You want to read
what?
this? Yeah.
Damien.
Hey,
this is
coming from Ireland, actually.
Yes.
So
Question: why would you protect yourself? What did you wrong, Skinwalker? Have you seen one?
Okay.
First off, I grew up with my mother being a black arts witch, and I've seen a lot of the ceremony. Um, yes, I've seen skinwalkers, and yes, you have to protect yourselves from them because they are completely evil. They come from a dark place. Um, you can say it's almost like a demonic possession through ceremony. I can't get into the details of the ceremony
I understand.
because it's not to be
Sacred.
discussed. Yeah, it's
Right.
not to be discussed because I wouldn't want to bring trouble down on people that are listening.
Right.
Um, and it would happen. Um, it's more of a protection for giving the people that have to stand off against the skinwalker strength to endure it and the strength to fight it off and fend it off for themselves is what the reason I do the ceremonies. So, and it basically consists of praying, smudging, um, a couple chants, singing, that kind of stuff. So,
There we go. All righty.
From my woo-woo perspective, ways to strengthen your connection with your light source.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yep.
well, yeah, everybody needs to drop the TV and the cell phone and disconnect for 3 to 4 days and just get out into nature and start to feel that connection again. Every time I do a ceremony now, I go out, I take my shoes and my socks off, and I'll curl my toes up into the ground and just feel that connection to Mother Earth.
Yep.
And even in the Dene ceremonies and prayers, when the Dene people pray for rain for their crops, they take their shoes off, they curl their toes up into the ground, and they feel the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and they ask Mother Earth and the grandfathers, to please bless them with rain, and they visualize the rain falling on the crops, and within 24 hours you'll have rain. It
I
works.
think I'll try that in my garden.
Yeah.
It's a connection that has been going on for literally thousands of years. And if only the European descendants that came here back in the old days would have listened to the native people that were on this land to begin with about everything that was here and how you have to live with respect to the land, it would have been a lot better place today. So,
Would totally agree.
I have to say, I credit any success in my garden because I work in it barefoot.
Yeah.
And I sing to my garden plants.
yep.
I'm going to have tomatoes. I am going to have tomatoes.
So what's it say about me when your grandmother only told me coyote stories? I must have been a bit of a trickster when I was younger, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Coyote and Iktomi, two tricksters.
Yep.
All right. Damien also asks in our last minute and a half, last 30 seconds, let's separate ceremony and encounter. How can you describe Skinwalker? Can you explain what he looks like? And he agrees to stop watching television.
I as far as the transformation goes, it is almost like a half human, with the animal features. Now you can a black witch can shapeshift only, and this is from what I gathered from all the ceremonies and stuff, can only shapeshift in a form of its equal or larger size. Okay, it can never shrink into like the size of a mouse. Okay, because it has to keep its traditional human form. So, but yeah, it's and it's not just a wolf or coyote it can transform into. It can transform into a bear, a mountain lion, whatever. So whatever it wants to, as long as it adorns its skin, its hide.
Okay.
Okay, last question.
Last question. This is really the last one because now we are going over time. Last one. Basically, do fox?
Can a fox shape shift? I think that was the
I think
question.
that's what the question is.
I don't think so.
No,
No.
no, I don't. I
Okay.
don't believe so. It would have to be a pretty big fox in order to do that. So
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
well, William, this is awesome. I'm so glad you messaged me and said we need to, connect. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I am totally not into all this stuff, or I wasn't. This has been the most fascinating journey with me since we took this full time, and I have met the coolest people. You are one of them, and I am learning so much. And anyway, I think this is going to go down as one of my favorite episodes. And I may be messaging you to pick your brain more, just because
that's fine.
I'm just like, ugh. Anyway. But until next week, it's time for us to go. So please remember that. Find the buttons.
All right.
Bye. We'll have you back.
We'll have you back, William. Thank you so much.
Okay. As always, our job
I gotta find it.
is to investigate the unexplained.
Not to explain the uninvestigated.
So until next week, please like, subscribe, share this with your friends, get really obnoxious with them and say you really, 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 really need to follow Squatch America, and I'm going to stop. I'm not going to stop hounding you until you do. You need to order this mug, send us a message or an email. We will get an invoice and these out to you. And anything from you?
Nope.
So until next week, you keep watching and
We'll keep squatching.
bye now.
Go out and find Bigfoot.